SKOL Vikings, let's win this game.
Vikings fans, Minnesota feels like a room full of smoke alarms right now. Everything's chirping at once. This offseason hit like a sudden cold plunge, and the fan base is wide-eyed. You've got a head coach already carrying the weight of the 2026 season like it's a full backpack of bricks. You've got a source saying a young physical corner is a legit draft target. You've got one player tied directly to what happens with the defensive boss, and yeah, steel yourself. New details on Jordan Addison and what pushed him into more off-field trouble. Does that make a trade swing into play? Before I start peeling this thing back like a sticky piece of tape, do me a favor. Lock in with the channel, and I want to hear you too. Toss your thoughts down in the comments so we can argue it out like we're at a tailgate. Fair? Cool. Let's roll. Here's the thing. You can't keep acting like this is all whatever anymore, because the air in Minnesota is changing like the sky before a storm. And the first dude catching that pressure is the head coach, Kevin O'Connell. He's built a lot since he arrived. Stronger culture, a team that shows up and swings almost every Sunday. But the 2026 season is creeping in with that spotlight heat nobody wants to stare into. If you look at it straight, his record holds up. 43 regular season wins and 25 losses across 4 years. He started with a 13-win season. He followed with a 14-win 2024 run and won Coach of the Year. He even helped bring Sam Darnold's career back from the dead. That's real work, but there's a crack in the glass. 2 playoff trips, 2 first-round exits. And in this league, that turns into ammo in a hurry. Then you look around the division and it burns worse. Right now, he's the only coach in the NFC North without a postseason win. Everybody else has at least one, and that comparison sits there like a billboard you can't unsee. I'm not saying O'Connell is on the hot seat today. The Wilf family seems to like him, and the locker room, based on what you can feel, respects how he runs it. If anybody's closer to the warning siren, it might be General Manager Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah. But when you keep knocking and never kick the door down, the standard climbs. Year 5 isn't "we're building." Year 5 is "show me." And the history matters here. The last times this franchise missed the postseason in back-to-back years, the payment came due. That shadow hung over Mike Zimmer's exit after the 2020 and 2021 seasons. So if the 2026 season turns into another year without the playoffs, it's tough to imagine everyone walks away untouched. Man, even saying it feels like stepping on a loose floorboard. And that drags us right into the offseason issue that decides everything: quarterback. The Vikings cannot whiff on this call. If the plan is J.J. McCarthy, fine, then the plan better be crystal. Clean up the mechanics. Put the kid in spots to win big games, not just get reps. Win. If the move is chasing a proven name, then make it a headline-level swing. Because if we repeat the 2025 story and miss the playoffs again in the 2026 season, the whole mood flips. This fan base in purple and gold isn't swallowing easy excuses, and it doesn't even need to be a full collapse to spark heat. Picture making the playoffs and getting bounced again immediately. Folks will start asking, what's the missing piece? And that question sticks to the head coach whether he wants it or not. So tell me down in the comments, do you think the 2026 season is when O'Connell finally punches through, or does the pressure eat the whole thing alive? This is the kind of bleacher brain honesty you only get from somebody who's been riding every bump with this team. And next, I'm getting into a corner who's starting to show up on Minnesota's draft radar like a flashing target. One of those moves that can reshape a secondary. When this defense bogged down at times, you could feel the migraine coming like a bass drum in your skull. The secondary needs fresh fuel, guys who come in ready to scrap for snaps, and when mock drafts start leaning hard on one name, I stop and listen like I'm hearing footsteps upstairs. The guy right now is Avion Terrell, a Clemson cornerback. This isn't me yelling instant fix, but it's the kind of wager that matches a long-running Vikings need, because Minnesota hasn't exactly had an easy time striking gold at this spot. Every fan in purple and gold knows that sting. It's been a long hunt. The newest shove came from Pro Football Focus in a 2026 mock draft, where they had Terrell sitting there as a first-round possibility for Minnesota. The reason is simple: coverage help is needed, and his college resume jumps off the page. He's posted a strong PFF grade in back-to-back seasons above 80. That guarantees nothing, but it screams consistency. And consistency at corner is like finding a clean jersey on laundry day. There's also the bloodlines angle. Terrell is the younger brother of A.J. Terrell, who's played at a high level in the league. And yeah, I know a last name doesn't guard receivers, but it can sharpen what's between your ears. You grow up around routines, pressure, and the reality of living under a microscope. Watch his tape and you see why the buzz exists. In zone, his eyes fire fast. He reads the quarterback and shuts down space. In tighter coverage, he wants hands-on at the line to throw timing off like sand in the gears. And I love this. He doesn't dodge the run game. He steps in and finishes tackles. That's an attitude you can feel. Sure, scouts will bring up size. That's standard. But Sundays ask a different question. Can you win at the catch point when the ball's in the air? He's already shown he battles, breaks up passes, finds interceptions, forces fumbles. He stirs chaos, and good defenses eat off that. Now imagine the fit. A young, aggressive corner walking into a room that has to quit living like it's held together with duct tape. If it hits, the whole secondary looks different. It even changes how the coordinator calls things. When you trust your corners, you blitz with more confidence, you disguise more, you choke off windows more. But this draft chatter is also a sour reminder. If we're staring at a first-round corner again, that hole still exists. So it can't be pick a guy and done. It's develop him right, add a veteran, and actually build the position like it matters. And here's where it gets spicy. While the draft sits out there, the present is screaming for a major quarterback decision, and suddenly, Brian Flores' future starts sliding pieces across that chessboard. In a second, I'll tell you how that can either lock the plan in place or flip the whole table. Sometimes you look at a roster like you're staring at a Jenga tower and you think, okay, who keeps this from wobbling when it gets tight? And now that spotlight lands right on J.J. McCarthy. The Vikings miss the playoffs, and it's suddenly not just, is he the future? It's, how much risk can you take in the 2026 season? Here's the big hinge. What they do with McCarthy might depend on who's running the defense. Yep, I'm talking about Brian Flores. A Pioneer Press columnist, Jace Frederick, floated the idea, and it hits with that gut-level fan logic. If Flores leaves and the defense slips, next year's pressure shifts, expectations cool, and McCarthy gets more room to mess up, learn, and grow without the fan base detonating every Sunday. But if Flores stays and enough pieces stay intact, the whole tone changes. Then you can't stroll into the 2026 season with a let's find out shrug. You need insurance. You need a capable veteran, somebody who can keep the season from sliding off the road if the kid hits a wall. Because let's be honest, nobody's built for another wasted year. And Kevin O'Connell kind of fed that feeling without even trying. After the Week 18 win over the Packers, he got asked if he was comfortable locking in McCarthy as the 2026 starter. He played it careful. He talked about JJ improving, growing, and how he can't wait to work with him in the offseason. But it wasn't the full-throated stamp we'd heard earlier. When I heard it, I thought, yeah, that latch isn't clicked. And I get the logic. O'Connell doesn't want to mess with the locker room, and he knows free agency and the draft are still coming. If you slam the door on upgrading the quarterback room, players notice. Then the whispering starts, and nobody wants that noise. On Flores, there's a fresh update from Mike Florio at Pro Football Talk. The sense is the Vikings are confident Flores only leaves if he becomes a head coach. So far, the most concrete thing is an interview with the Ravens. There's been noise about the Raiders and the Cardinals. People even toss the Cowboys around as a coordinator destination. But right now, the clean picture is this. Either he lands a head coaching gig or he's back in Minnesota. And one thing muddies the water. Flores' lawsuit against the NFL. That can make cautious ownership freeze up, even if nobody says it out loud. Then you've got the awkward way his Miami run ended. Those labels stick, fair or not. So, yeah, McCarthy's future might be tied to the defense, not just the offense. If the defense is championship level, you better have Plan A and Plan B at quarterback. What would you do? Ride with JJJ with zero safety net or bring in a vet to make it a real competition? And keep riding with me because next we get into the report saying the Vikings are calm about Flores, but only to a certain point. I'm telling you, this Brian Flores situation is like a TV series that keeps adding seasons. Eventually you're like, wrap it up, but you can't ignore it because it matters too much. His contract is set to expire, and that cracks the door for every kind of rumor, including the kind that feels like it was tossed out just to light a match. The talk right now is pretty straightforward. Inside the building, the Vikings don't appear worried about Flores leaving to be a coordinator somewhere else. The belief is he only goes if a head coach job comes through. That lines up with what Kevin O'Connell has hinted in interviews. He wants Flores back, and he sounds like he expects it unless something bigger lands. The latest update came from Mike Florio at Pro Football Talk, and he stayed on that same track. Minnesota remains confident Flores returns unless he lands a head coaching job. And again, the most concrete piece so far is an interview with the Ravens. Yes, there's been buzz tying him to the Raiders. Yes, folks have dragged the Cowboys into the conversation. But buzz isn't a contract, it's just wind. What's real right now is Baltimore. And I'll be straight with you as a longtime fan who has seen plenty. If Flores stays, the defense can keep being the emotional engine of this team. Those aggressive calls, that nerve to send pressure, that style that plays to steal possessions, that changes games and it changes how the stadium breathes. But if he walks, you're spinning the wheel again. New coordinator, new language, new rules, sometimes even different personnel calls. Then the team turns into a puzzle dumped on the floor, and sometimes it takes half a season just to find the corner pieces. For the 2026 season, that's playing with fire. And there's another part people don't always say out loud. Flores still has two things working against him for a head coach job: the lawsuit against the NFL and the uncomfortable ending in Miami. I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying in this league, owners chase peace, and when they see a name that feels like turbulence, they hesitate. That's why I don't rule out him returning to Minnesota even with openings out there. And here's a wrinkle. The Vikings might be so confident that Florio even floated the idea of a behind-the-scenes agreement like, we're aligned, and we're just not signing yet because you want to take your head coach interviews. That makes sense. You don't slam the door on a bigger opportunity, but you also don't cut the lifeline. And the fan base in purple and gold is stuck in that waiting room. You want stability. You want to keep what worked. But you also know respected coordinators get hunted. That's the tax you pay for a defense that scares people. So for now, that's the snapshot. Flores only leaves if it's for the head coach chair. That settles things a little, but it doesn't drain the tension. One phone call can flip the script. And next, we're walking into something heavier. This isn't coach rumor chatter. This isn't a mock draft. This is off-field trouble tied to a major offensive name, and it hits the locker room, and it hits everyone who lives and breathes Vikings football. Some things hit your ears and you feel your patience drain like a leaky tire because you've heard versions of it before, right? And this time it circles around Jordan Addison. But hold up, I'm not tossing his name out like a cheap siren. Let's start with the plain facts. Early Monday morning in Florida, police arrested a Vikings player and the allegation was trespassing. Not long after, it was confirmed it was Addison. According to case documents, the arrest happened around 3:46 a.m., and the location was reportedly the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in the Tampa area. He was released later that afternoon after posting a $500 bond. And here's the issue. The fan base in purple and gold isn't arguing the talent. He has talent. The problem is the pattern. Addison was already suspended at the start of the 2025 season because of the DUI case in Los Angeles in July of 2024. Before that, there was the 140 miles per hour traffic stop in Minnesota during his rookie summer. That's a lot for a young player. When Kevin O'Connell was asked about it, he kept it guarded, said he'd just learned about it, said he wouldn't speculate, said the team will gather the facts and figure out what happened. Honestly, I respect that restraint. Talking too hot only pours gas on it. But you can't shrug this off. This gets into the locker room. This becomes a conversation. This touches trust. And then there's the cold business side of football. Addison is heading into the final year of his rookie deal, and a major decision is sitting there. There's the fifth-year option. There's guaranteed money for the 2027 season, and it's far bigger than the total value of his current deal. Meanwhile, this team is trying to get lined up for the 2026 season, answering pressure on the head coach, sorting out quarterback, trying to keep the whole thing from wobbling. The last thing you want is a massive distraction chewing up oxygen. I'm torn, and I know plenty of people are too, because on the field he produces. He has 22 touchdowns in 46 games. His receiving yardage pace is strong, and he has decided games. Remember that London trip? He missed walkthroughs, got punished, sat the first quarter, then came back and caught the game-winning touchdown late. That's the Addison experience in one snapshot. A mistake, then a lightning strike. But you can't keep paying that bill forever. And there's another layer. The Vikings also have to decide what to do with Jalen Naylor, who is set to hit free agency in March. He has stepped up when he got chances. If Addison turns into a constant headache, the front office is going to view that wide receiver room through a different lens. Nobody wants to lose talent, but nobody wants to spend every month putting out fires either. Let me be crystal clear. This can shift how people inside the building see him, not just the fans. And when that internal view tilts, big decisions follow. Now breathe, because it all snaps into the bigger picture. A head coach under pressure, a defense trying to keep its level, a quarterback question, and a top offensive name creating off-field problems. I'm going to connect the dots and tell you what I think has to happen next. This offseason won't let anybody exhale. It's like trying to sleep with a marching band outside your window. Stack it all together, and it's both an emotional knot and a football problem at the same time. Kevin O'Connell heads into the 2026 season with legit regular season results, sure, but without that playoff win that ends the argument. And when that's missing, the league's patience shrinks like a cheap t-shirt in the dryer. Then you look ahead and see Avion Terrell showing up as a draft possibility, and I understand why. The secondary has to quit living on hope and start living on competition. If that hits, it changes how this team plays, and it changes how the stadium believes. Right in the middle of it, J.J. McCarthy's future is tied to something a lot of folks ignore: the defense. If Brian Flores stays and the level stays high, you can't walk into the 2026 season saying, "We'll see." You need a real quarterback plan. If Flores leaves, the margin for error grows, but it grows the wrong way because you lose time rebuilding the whole feel of the team. And then comes the gut punch. Jordan Addison, again, in off-field trouble. That kind of stuff grinds down an organization's trust, and it grinds down the fan base too, because you want to celebrate touchdowns, not spend the offseason reading arrest documents and waiting on statements. Here's my bold take. The 2026 season is when the Vikings decide if they're a true contender or if they're staying trapped in that almost there loop. And to break out of almost, you've got to be firm. You've got to protect the locker room. You've got to make hard calls even when it hurts. And you've got to get the offense and defense pulling the same rope like a team that expects to win in January, not just show up. Now I want to hear you. Drop your take in the comments because this space belongs to everyone who lives and breathes Vikings football. What worries you most? The pressure on O'Connell, the direction with McCarthy, the Flores situation, or Addison getting himself in trouble off the field? Stay tuned. SKOL Vikings, let's go.